isotope of hydrogen, and it's twice the size. So when it to make ATP or energy in the mitochondria, protons or hydrogen get pumped up or pushed up into a membrane, and they come down the ATPase. It's like got a hole in it, and it's the motor spins and ATP comes out, or energy we'll just call it. And deuterium's twice the size of hydrogen because it's got a neutron as well, and the hydrogen, or well, a proton's just got a proton and an electron, so it's smaller. And if you try and put a deuterium down the ATPase that spins, it's too big, so it breaks it, and then it breaks the mitochondria or damages it, and that sets off inflammation. And it can also kill the mitochondria, which will then damage the cell, and then it's going to affect the organ in which that cell came from. So it leads to all kinds of diseases, and also can lead to cancer as well, because the deuterium can block up something called the tricarboxylic acid cycle, or the Krebs cycle, that comes before mitochondria, and it can block that up.
Again, thanks very much for joining me. I really appreciate you taking the time, especially as you are the busy superhuman, and I appreciate how busy you must be. Now, you have a PhD, you're a biochemist, you're into ketogenic nutrition, quantum biology, Pilates, and hypnosis. How does one person do all this for a start?
I think I've been at it for quite a long time, because I did my degree and finished in the year 2000, and then I did my PhD after that. Then worked in science, and then I moved into hypnosis, working with people face to face, doing Pilates, and re-picked up things to do with nutrition and biochemistry, added in sort of nutrition, especially sort of a ketogenic or a cyclical ketogenic approach. And then quantum biology is very heavily biophysics based, so it was kind of a similar topic to my PhD, but stuff that's actually practical for the everyday person, rather than just sort of heavy physics. So yeah, that's how I got into it in a very sort of brief introduction.
That's incredible to me. And you also run a website, the Quantum Biology Foundation, which focuses on basically diet, biochemistry, spirituality, and more. Now, I also found that you were part of a paper, postdoctoral, you did research in heart and muscle cells and statins. And as an article of cholesterol depletion on cardiomyocytes. So just how important is cholesterol to the body?
Oh, it's vitally important. That's why I left science, because I didn't agree with cholesterol lowering drugs, because cholesterol is a messenger, not a monster, and it's sort of pivotal, first of all, for the integrity of cell membranes. It's a part of the barrier on our skin. We make all of our sex hormones out of pregnenolone, which is made from cholesterol. Then we make vitamin D out of cholesterol in the presence of ultraviolet light. Also, cholesterol is really important for timing in the body. So some people would refer to it as a time crystal, because it's important for seasonal changes, because it absorbs green light and UV light. So it can alter our hormones seasonally. But also it's important for chromosome division and gene expression. And if there isn't enough cholesterol, the timing in which our genes are switched on and off and chromosomes dividing can be off. And that's obviously a recipe for cancer. And even the Framingham Heart study showed the link between low LDL and higher rates of cancer, yet their big study was desperate to prove that cholesterol was bad. So all this other studies say with Ansel Keys and further sort of demonization of cholesterol and saturated fat couldn't be further from the truth. So that's why I left science, because I just didn't want to work on something I didn't think was helpful for people. And even if you look at the overall sort of efficacy of statins. I think people live 5 minutes longer in a study, and there are so many side effects to statins which lower cholesterol, but then I haven't listed all of cholesterol's roles in the body by any means. So we can imagine if we lower it, we actually create lots of problems. I mean, there are studies on, students and people in prison, a captive audience, and they show that low cholesterol can lead to mood swings, violent behavior, depression. It makes people more likely to have neurodegenerative problems because 25% of the brain is cholesterol. So again, it's something really important, how it functions alone, but also what the body turns it into. And then there's another important aspect of cholesterol, which is sulfated cholesterol or cholesterol sulfate. And this can be water soluble. And this has benefits in anti-clotting activity. And so it's atherogenic, so it's beneficial for heart problems. I'm talking about the cholesterol sulfate. So I think I've kind of listed here how important cholesterol is, and we shouldn't be fiddling about with it because it's that important. Our body makes a lot of it. So that's sort of briefly my view in defense of cholesterol.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. I have read recently studies on neurodegenerative diseases such as Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and the rest of it. And I think one of the key takeaways was that everyone diagnosed with these diseases were low in cholesterol. So why would anyone want to do that then?
I don't know. Well, it's kind of financially driven, isn't it? Because it's about making money from medication that we don't need. And they kind of lower the bar all the time of what an ideal lipid panel should look like. Because obviously there's no such thing as a cholesterol test, because when you have a lipid panel, you're looking at things like HDL and LDL, which are like envelopes that have got proteins and they carry things around the body that happen to have cholesterol in them as well. So there's tests that doctors do, and they lower the bar of these like levels of what these lipids should be in order to be able to push statins. And again, like I said, cholesterol's been demonized to this thing that causes heart disease, and it couldn't be further from the truth. It's just there's lots of cholesterol in the lipoproteins in the blood. So of course, if there's an injury or a clot or a stalling in blood flow, cholesterol is going to be there because it's sort of part of our blood. Yeah, and it's been wrongly blamed for sort of cardiovascular disease. So that's, again, so it's finances and bad science of why cholesterol has been demonized. But also back to neurodegenerative disorders, they're also a function of lack of neuromelanin, and because again, for particularly Parkinson's and dopamine, that's very dependent on neuromelanin, because the substantia nigra is dark or black because it's full of melanin, and that's like a UV light deficiency. So again, people demonize something like the sun as well, which is actually the giver of life. So it's kind of got quite ridiculous now what people have demonized, because it's just a way to make customers. If you tell people not to go outside, they're going to get sicker, so you can sell them more medication. And the same with statins. If people go on a statin, they're more likely to become insulin resistant, so then they're going to need maybe metformin. And as we just discussed then about brain health, if you lower brain cholesterol and people then get depression, then they might need to go on an antidepressant. So it leads to more and more medication, whereas there was nothing wrong with cholesterol in the first place.
Yeah, very much so. Like you said just now too, people they demonize everything that's absolutely vital for life, and I agree. Sunlight is one of those things that gets demonized. It has been demonized, especially here in Australia, for some time. Everyone has to, Slip, Slop, Slap is a program that was started here in the 80s. Put on sunscreen, put on a hat, and wear a shirt. So how important is light, and what is blue light or tech light poisoning?
Oh, right. Okay. I suppose we can unpack this, because first of all, with sunlight, it's not just the visible light. There's obviously the ultraviolet and the infrared, which is vital for health, that we can't see. So the invisible light is really important as well. But very basically, the sunlight sets our body clocks or circadian rhythm. And if we've got clocks out of time in the body, other biochemical processes, say gene expression, cell cycle, processes in the organs are all going to be out of sync and out of timing, like an airport that's being badly organized, which would be a disaster. So we don't want our bodies like an airport with everything out of sync, because it doesn't work properly. And there are studies to say that the better your body clock, or the more in sync they are, the better your health span and lifespan. But there's sort of decades of studies on circadian rhythms and poor circadian rhythm, linking it to sort of pretty much every disease you can think of, from depression to cancer to obesity to diabetes. But also the mitochondria, which make water for us, make ATP, are basically cellular batteries. They're extremely dependent on sunlight, if not wholly dependent on sunlight. So the sun itself powers our battery, not just the mitochondria, but also our water battery, which again, that's the work of Dr. Gilbert Ling and Dr. Pollock. So on an energetic level, we need to be in the sun. On a timing level, for our cells, we need to be in the sun. But each phase of the sun offers different benefits. For example, the sunrise basically switches on hormone cascades for the day and sets the body clocks for the day, like an on switch. It's like if you don't see the sunrise, it's sort of like turning up to a soccer or a football match, when it's already started, so you've missed the beginning. That's the same for our hormone cascades. And then after that, we've got the ultraviolet light that comes out. So that switches off certain hormones, but then it actually sort of opens our biological pharmacy. So the UV light's important for making thyroid hormone, serotonin, melatonin, dopamine, alpha MSH for making melanin, enkephalins and endorphins. And also UV light raises nitric oxide, which is really important for circulation and hearts. Looping back to sort of cholesterol again. And then if we go out in the UVB, that will be sort of more around noon. That's when we make our vitamin D out of cholesterol and sunlight. And there are numerous studies on how important vitamin D is for the immune system, for sex hormones, for cancer prevention, for bone health. I think there's like over 200 reactions that vitamin D participates in, and that's a combination of cholesterol and sunlight. And just looping back to cholesterol again, you can get elevated cholesterol levels just because you don't go out in the sun enough. And then also back to your question about the blue light and the tech, that if people aren't outside, then they're going to have to be indoors. And first of all, when you're behind glass, that blocks the ultraviolet light and also the near infrared light. So the near infrared, we need it for our mitochondria, but also for other processes deep in the body. It's very healing, it's very important, and the glass blocks that. So even if you don't have any tech on or any LEDs on, you've already stripped out two really important parts of the solar spectrum that we need for different processes in the body. And then when we get into like the blue light, which comes from say LEDs or screens, artificial lighting, too much of that light raises blood sugar, it can raise cortisol, and it can lower dopamine, and it can damage retinol or vitamin A, which then goes on and damages other photoreceptors in the body. So it is a recipe for multiple health issues, and especially, as you mentioned, cholesterol at the beginning. Raised insulin and blood sugar is a big cardiovascular risk, and everybody agrees on that, scientists, doctors, everyone. And blue light raises the blood sugar and insulin, and also cortisol. We live in a society where there are so many stressors anyway. We don't need any more stressors from the artificial blue light. And then finally, if you expose yourself to artificial blue light after sunset, it's going to stop your body producing melatonin. So you first of all need melatonin to get to sleep, and sleep's vital for healing, detox, basically everything. It's a way to recharge from our sort of difficult, toxic lives. But also melatonin is really important for regulating hormones. It also does things like autophagy and apoptosis in the mitochondria. So that just means sort of repairing and killing off ones that are old and damaged. And without melatonin or proper melatonin and proper sleep and proper sort of mitochondrial healing during the night, it just opens people up for multiple chronic illnesses, insomnia, hormone imbalances, everything you can imagine. So the problem with blue light is enormous, because people don't understand that light is probably the primary driver of biology, and they just think light is something that you switch it on and you can see in your room. They don't realize that there's all these different colors or frequencies or wavelengths of light that control our hormones, our body clocks, our sleep-wake cycles, our appetites, and all sorts. So having the wrong lighting environment, the sort of junk blue light, just adds on to the diabetes problem, because we have that already from people being sedentary, eating too much processed food, eating too much deuterium, eating too much sugar, and then adding the blue light on top. It just is an extra insult for the body. And as we know, levels of type 2 diabetes are on the rise, and we're seeing it earlier and earlier, sort of even in people in their 20s, and even children can be insulin resistant and almost type 2 diabetic now. And then with obviously screen addiction and overuse of screens, that depletes dopamine again, as I said, because of the blue light. And then, it makes people wide open to other addictions as well. And as we know, addictions are rife as well in society, starting earlier and earlier, ranging from food, drugs, porn, whatever you can think of. And the blue light is sort of part of this. It sort of makes it worse, makes people more open or wide open to addiction.
There's so much to unpack there. Diet obviously is something is very important for everyone, obviously, but the connection there with the sunlight and cholesterol, we need cholesterol. Sunlight actually stimulates the cholesterol production.
It stimulates sulfation of cholesterol and sulfation in general. So we need sunlight to sulfate cholesterol and make it water soluble, and cholesterol sulfate has a load of beneficial properties as well. And obviously we need the sunlight, to the UVB light, to turn cholesterol into vitamin D. So again, cholesterol can perform its function of being a precursor for making vitamin D, which is a hormone, really. It's not a vitamin. So in a way, going out in the sun more actually brings cholesterol levels down, because sometimes people do get elevated cholesterol and it's not harmful. It's just reporting on something. It's saying, you've got this cholesterol that's built up. It's not going to hurt you, but you need to deal with the reason why it's gone higher, why it's gone high. And a lot of it links back to bad body clocks, not enough UV or sunlight exposure, not enough time outside. As well. I mean, again, with cholesterol and looking at it through a biochemistry lens, I stopped doing that a long time ago, because there's just so much bad science around it. Whereas in terms of heart disease, the sun is the best thing for bad hearts. And like you said, diet's vitally important. I'm massively against processed food. Just eat food. There's so many different ways you can, even if somebody didn't want to do a ketogenic diet or limit carbs or be carnivore or whatever, there are plenty of ways to eat clean, non-inflammatory produce that you've grown yourself. Because I don't think there's anything wrong with plants. I do think there is, if people have covered them in glyphosate or processed them excessively. But like you say, diet's sort of key as well. But there's a huge link to light and food as well, because also light can control our food choices or appetite or metabolism via leptin, and then people can make bad food choices because of being bathed in bad light and being inside too much and not outside enough, because alpha MSH doesn't just make melanin, which is not just a suntan. There's much more to melanin than that. It also lowers appetite, so people are less tempted to eat things that they shouldn't, because I think a lot of people know they shouldn't be eating certain foods. They just can't stop themselves. I'm not sure what your thoughts on that are. Yes, of course, there are people who've been miseducated and think they should be eating the food pyramid and whole grains are good for them. And people that think that red meat's bad, or, you know, saturated fat is harmful and nonsense like that. But again, our light exposure influences our metabolism a lot, which again influences our food choices.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I'm very low. I'm almost zero carb, except I do have a little bit of dairy. High fat diet for me is essential. When it comes to cholesterol levels, though, too, if you are fat adapted, your lipids will be higher as well. As you said before, they are like taxis for energy and things like that. So, and production. So,
absolutely.
I
I went through a 7-day fast, and that was the highest my lipid panel readings were ever. And I hadn't eaten any food for 7 days, but it's because my body was mobilizing ketones and my own body fat. So if you don't eat, your lipids go up. I mean, elevated triglycerides are a marker. They're a problem. They shouldn't be elevated, because that's kind of that sort of, you know, you can get lipid panels where you've got elevated triglycerides and elevated blood sugar and insulin, and that's a problematic combination. But again, blue light and non-native EMFs can raise triglycerides as well. Whereas if we're talking about LDL and HDL and other components of lipoproteins, I don't look at them unless somebody's got other markers. Say if somebody had funky lipid panel and they had high triglycerides and they had high C-reactive protein and they had high ferritin and they had high homocysteine and they had low HDL and low vitamin D and low thyroid, I would consider it a problem. But you shouldn't ever look at, you know, lab results, just one thing. You need to look at like lots of things to draw a conclusion. And even with lab results, they're only giving you a snapshot of your biochemistry, and we've taken blood out of the body, treated it, we've taken the lipids out of their natural environments, added chemicals to them, done tests, and then drawn conclusions on this. So we're not even looking at the lipids in their natural environment anyway. So I think there's so many red herrings when you look at things. But again, labs can be useful, but you have to look at lots of different sort of markers, not just look at a lipid panel. You have to look at other things also, and it can be interesting. But like I said, you can get elevated cholesterol if you don't go out, because you make pregnenolone out of thyroid hormone, which is made in UVA light and vitamin A. And like I said, blue light will destroy your vitamin A, and not enough UVA light is going to give you low thyroid production. So that means that the cholesterol will build up because there isn't any vitamin A or thyroid for it to react with to make pregnenolone. And pregnenolone's the master sex hormone that we make estrogen and testosterone and progesterone out of. So again, somebody could have elevated cholesterol because of a vitamin A problem or a UVA problem. And then, like I said before, not enough UVB means you're not going to make enough vitamin D. So that could give you an elevated cholesterol or LDL level, but it doesn't mean it's dangerous. It means that it's reporting on something you're doing in your life that you shouldn't be doing. But again, if I'm working with somebody, I won't just look at labs. I ask them lots of questions and find out what they actually do. And it's not just about food, it's about other things as well. But sure, food is really important too. But the key take-home message is if somebody does choose to go keto or carnivore and their lipids go up, it's nothing to worry about. Yeah,
I agree. I've spoken to the many carnivores that I've spoken to. Actually, one of the side effects, unexpected side effects they were talking about is their addictions leaving them. Like some people I've spoken to were addicted to gambling, addicted to tobacco and things like that. But being on a high-fat diet, they actually just have no zest or or just lose the addiction along the way. So I think, you know, the cholesterol of high fat diet has helped them a lot. But I'm interested in the blue light connection to addiction as well.
Yeah, just to loop back to the high fat. If you think about a high fat diet, fat provides more electrons than glucose, and it's low in deuterium. And deuterium damages your mitochondria and can wreak havoc in every system in your body. That's like an isotope of hydrogen, and fat's really low in deuterium. But then secondly, when you do a ketogenic diet, your mitochondria make twice as much metabolic water. And like I said before, our water battery is vital for how we function. So if you don't have enough water to line all of your cell membranes, your gut, our brains have got the most exclusion zone or EZ water. So I think when people switch to eating a high fat diet, they actually produce more water, and that's going to give them more energy. It's going to make their brains function better. And like you said, other problems, because addictions can be due to mild depression or all other reasons. So there's a lot more to a high fat diet than just cholesterol. I'm more into the fact it makes more water, because the more water we have, metabolic water, the better we'll do, the better we'll function. And you get that from eating fats, because a carbs only will produce half an equivalent of water, protein 0.75, and then fat's just one equivalent if we just want to compare. So there's more to to eating a ketogenic or a ketone producing diet. It's more of like a water producing way of eating, and there's a massive link to exclusion zone water and cancer as well, that the more exclusion zone you've got, or the more water you've got, the better chance your body has of dealing with precancerous cells or cancer in general. But I mean, there's lots of other reasons as well, but I think the water aspect of carnivore keto diets, as long as the carnivore diet doesn't have too much protein, I think it's like hugely powerful for water production.
So when you talk about water production, you're not talking about hydration.
No, I'm talking about metabolic water, because in the mitochondria, they produce ATP, and that's used to unfold proteins. Is not our main energy source, but then complex number 4 produces deuterium depleted water in the mitochondria. So the mitochondria make deuterium depleted water, and the lower your deuterium, the less disease you'll have. And there's no argument that high deuterium causes or leads to cancer for several reasons. So if your mitochondria produce more metabolic water, then you've got more deuterium depleted water to go around to be structured and line all of the membranes, because the blood vessels need to be lined with exclusion zone water so things don't stick to them. It needs to line the gut so that the gut's impermeable, and we need the water because it's our energy, it's our battery. So the more metabolic water we've got, the better we'll function. Because yeah, sure, there's sort of, hydration, sort of just drinking water, but just drinking 8 glasses of water a day is wildly different, because that's sort of bulk water. I'm talking about the sort of 4th phase of water, the structured water, which the mitochondria produce. That's the important water, and the more water the mitochondria make, the better you'll function. And there's actually a link to how much water your mitochondria can make to how good you are at making vitamin D. The more metabolic water you have, or the better you're hydrated, as in the more exclusion zone water you have, the less histamine problems you're going to run into, and a whole load more aspects. So that's why I just think eating carbohydrates is foolish. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with carbs cycling in a circadian fashion during the summer when produce grows, but eating sugar and carbs all the time and then sitting in blue light in front of tech all day is just a recipe for diabetes and everything else that insulin resistance and high blood sugar leads to.
Wow. Okay, so let's talk about, for example, the dietary sort of guidelines that you might find in the fitness industry. When you're talking about mitochondrial water and deuterium, the most common kind of diet given in the fitness industry is a low-fat, high-protein diet. How would that affect mitochondrial health and hydration then?
Well, the thing is, what about so they have high protein, low fat, but what would their carbs be? Would they be high or moderate?
Well, they're usually about there'd be about the same amount of grams in carbohydrates as there would be in protein in the fitness industry.
Okay, but then again, there's no evidence that we need carbohydrates to do sport. So that kind of way of eating is going to be higher in deuterium. And if you don't have enough fat, then you're going to have problems producing hormones. And lots of athletes do have, like women athletes often get absence of cycles and, problems with fertility. So with that kind of way of eating, it's like they can do whatever they want. I just think that what they don't understand deuterium, they don't understand electrons or mitochondria, because in the mitochondria, it's called the electron transport chain, not the protein transport chain or the fat transport chain or the carbohydrate transport chain. So eating, and also it depends on the protein, because if you're eating protein powders and stuff that's made in a factory, it's processed food, which is going to be high in deuterium. And then there's obviously the supplements they eat as well. Again, if they want to eat like that, that's fine by me. I personally wouldn't want to eat like that. And I mean, that there's like other elements to sports performance than just nutrition. I just think that it's sort of dogma that they eat like that because they've always eaten like that. And they just think that, you have to have carbs to exercise, to make energy. That's what their thinking is. They don't know anything about DHA or water or other energy systems in the body. So it's just, I think they just think about macros and they don't really understand energy or mitochondria properly in the body. And again, lots of people exercise or work out in very, very heavily blue lit stadiums. So again, they have problems with not just, the diet, there's a lot worse diets than what athletes eat, but then their training environment is not healthy anymore. And then a lot of them don't sleep properly either. So that's why I think there are sort of more injuries happening now in much younger athletes. So it's something like I tend to stay away from food, and I have my own way of thinking and explaining things to people. And if they have a problem and they're eating things that I would say, and I have an issue or think that particular food might be part of their problem, I'll explain it in a biophysics way, because I think it's time people learn like a new level of how the body works and look at deuterium, electrons, mitochondria, and water. Rather than just looking at macros all the time, because that's sort of quite a sort of old-fashioned way. And then with calories in versus calories out, it's sort of a tool, not a rule. It sort of works in a small range, but like thermodynamically, it's not accurate. And it's again, in the fitness industry, they're very obsessed with calories too, and it's just about calories. And again, it's the electron transport chain, not the calorie transport chain. And a calorie is a measure of heat anyway. It's how much heat you need to heat 1 ml of water, just in sort of simple terms. It's kind of got nothing to do with food and energy to start with.
Yeah, that's something I've been trying to get across to people too, is we thrive on nutrients, not calories. It's not calories that we crave,
And only 30% of our energy we get from food anyway. We're meant to get the other 70% from sunlight and grounding, like charging the electrons. So it's not even the full complement anyway of our energy system. It's just one out of other, we've got other means or ways we can get energy, like hydrogen, electrons, light. So that's a reason I kind of a long time ago moved away from it. And I can't understand why people can't just eat sort of food that our ancestors ate. Again, it's each to their own about things like nuts or dairy or or whatever, but this idea of non-food and protein powder and eating oats and food that people would have fed their animals in the past and call it healthy, and buying things in packets, and eating pasta and gluten and stuff. I just don't understand why they'd want to do that. But, you know, again, people are brainwashed in a way, aren't they?
Yeah, well, that's right. And again, it all goes back to, I mean, the education is all about, you know, it's all about calories in and versus calories out. So you can pretty much eat what you want. And, you know, it's your fault for eating too many calories, for example.
Exactly. But it's also, it's like, you know, you can eat a Kit Kat, which is full of seed oils and sugar and deuterium, but it's okay because it's within your calorie allowance. But also our metabolic needs, or how much energy we need per day, kind of is hugely dependent on hormones like leptin and insulin and testosterone and growth hormones. So it doesn't, you know, I can understand, you know, why it sort of works, but it's not, it's very sort of, you know, I want to say childish. It's kind of very low level of how the body works. We're much more complicated than that. And I agree with you totally that just eating some rubbish in a packet because it's got 50 calories isn't healthy. I can't see why people can't just eat a boiled egg, or can't they just, you know, make some beef jerky if they want a snack, you know, make it yourself, or, you know, there's so many, or have some seafood or some oysters. There's like plenty of sort of snack food that if you must snack, because that's another thing I think is not a good idea at all, is snacking and eating 6 meals a day. I'm not sure what your thoughts are on that, but I've found with people snacking messes up the clocks in their liver, and then they get hungry in the evening and eat the wrong thing and stuff like that. Whereas, you know, snacking, I think, is advocated in sports.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, when I was younger, it was all about to keep your metabolism burning faster, you need to eat regularly every couple of hours. So it was all about, just snacks. And, you know, the fitness industry is notorious for this as well. They label these non-foods as healthy foods, such as protein powders, protein bars, and or these low carb, so to speak, sort of snacks that they bring out, which, as you said, like they're full of seed oils, sweeteners, and all sorts of other junk and highly processed. It's just pure poison, really.
And they've got the worst proteins ever, like messed about with soy protein and, you know, processed whey, and then they've got sort of, they call, like, I can't remember the exact name, but they have funny names, and it's basically trans fats in disguise. And also they put vitamins and minerals in completely the wrong forms and the wrong ratios. You know, again, we can get all our minerals and vitamins within reason from food and mineral water. Potassium and magnesium can be harder to get, but again, the magnesium problem is a sort of soil problem and a farming issue and soil depletion. But adding all of these B vitamins to like 600% RDA, whatever, you know, I know the RDAs are also not proven, and putting weird amounts of like zinc in, because zinc apparently is the best mineral of all, and then into these non-foods to pretend that they're healthy. And I have an issue with that, because it's not even proper nutrients, it's just chemical forms of vitamins, which, you know, again, if people ate animal-based food and seafood, they'd get DHA, omega-3s, they'd get B vitamin, they get everything they need in the right form from proper food, and build a human being out of eating sort of other animals and seafood. So yeah, I just really, but the thing is, it's like statins, it's money, isn't it? Because, you know, these bars look nice and you can make money, and the food scientists are brilliant at making things addictive and delicious and crunchy and moreish, and like you say, then they get labeled as healthy, and then they find people who are willing to sell their souls for money that, you know, look amazing, somebody with like a superb physique, and just get them to, you know, say, oh yeah, you know, I'll give you like 500 grand, just tell everybody that you eat these bars and have this protein. So again, there's loads of, everywhere you look, there's kind of corruption and lies. It is basically just follow the money.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, even if like young people, they do look amazing, but metabolically, they're still not healthy. They just think they are because they look good. I was the same. You know, when I was diagnosed, I was only 38, but I was fine. I was very lean. I was very fit, but I wasn't healthy. You know, I was in the fitness industry, and I ate all the fitness foods. So it's some people are just ignorant, like as I was, but others, like you said, they sort of sell their soul for the money, and they promote products that they either don't use or have no idea what's in them either. So, but you've seen that the last few years too. Plenty of doctors promoting products that they have no idea what's in them, yet they just they have no problem with injecting people. So it's hopefully people are waking up to that.
I think, well, when it comes to those kind of things, that doctors don't really understand much. Well, they do 3 months of biochemistry and probably 3 months of pharmacology, and then they're able to prescribe all of these things. They don't know how they work. I mean, you can get a pharmacist does a whole 3-year degree in pharmaceuticals. So again, they're going to obviously know more about exactly how these things work. But then there's also lots of kind of bad science surrounding pharmaceuticals, like antidepressants. They're terrible. The studies, the pharmaceuticals, try and hide the times when the antidepressants made people worse, and there's like lawsuits left, right, and center against things like Paxil and other SSRIs because the data was flawed to start with. And also serotonin doesn't even have anything to do with depression anyway. And it's the same in the fitness industry. It's not just the food, it's also the supplements. There's the over-the-counter supplements, but then there are the deeper level supplements that, again, people don't really understand how peptides work, or SARMs, or sort of heavier things like steroids. So it's a big mixture of all sorts that can go wrong. And then if you add all of the rubbish food on top of that, it's like a recipe for disaster. And like you said, people can look amazing on the outside, but they might have terrible mental health problems like depression or ADHD and, other things brewing inside, like an autoimmune disease. People can look amazing on the outside and have autoimmunity. And then, of course, cancer as well. It's terrible, like people who get it young, and again, they did anything wrong, they were just misinformed, and luckily some survive, but some unfortunately don't. And it wasn't them doing anything bad, they thought they were being healthy, and that's what really saddens and angers and upsets me. If people just want to sit around and eat pizzas and smoke vapes and cigarettes and drink alcohol all day and watch Netflix and think they're going to be healthy, well, that's their choice. But it's people, like yourself, who think they're doing what's right and then get a horrible sort of shock, basically, and then get very upset and very angry. But then it's about telling everybody, don't do that. Don't eat what the fitness people try to tell you that's healthy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, it's everywhere. It's the education, it's on television, the propaganda, fitness magazines, fitness industry, the medical industry. It's just absolutely everywhere. So you think you're doing the right thing, and I think most people do want to be healthy, but it is very muddy water. So it's very difficult for them to actually find the information that they need to actually be healthy.
But also, it's not just the fitness industry, it's also pushing veganism and plant-based as some kind of way to save the planet. And there's plenty of, I've seen lots of horror stories, you probably have, and also there's huge amounts of sort of processed vegan food like cheese, and like the list of like vegan cheese's ingredients is like 25 things. Just eat cheese, this one ingredient. And then it's not, and also this idea that people are saving the planet, whereas it actually kills. If you want to grow crops, you've got to kill like thousands of animals and birds and mice and things to get your Oreos, which are vegan, or your bread or whatever. So it's not helping animals. You're just killing more. And you probably have seen the same study as me. There's no more pollution to having an animal farm than there is to having a grain or a whatever farm. And you've got to process all the grains anyway. They all have to go through a factory to make, these foods that people want to eat, being plant-based. And then I mentioned glyphosate and insecticides and pesticides before, that at least animals and eggs and things like that are protected, whereas the plants are wide open to all of the stuff that gets sprayed on. And there's loads of loopholes in the law when it comes to what you can spray on plants and still call them organic. And then young people being pushed into veganism. And the thing that really disturbs me is vegan babies and children, because it's just...
Oh, that's horrible, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's just wrong. It's like imposing some crazy cult on your child and not knowing, because nobody knows anything about the long-term effects of vegan diets, because they're only new. And at least with a ketogenic diet, we've got over 100 years or more of like information or data about it, because it's people like William Banting and stuff from last century, the century before that. So we've got lots of information on ketogenic diets, really, probably more than any other way of eating. And we know that it's not this demonic diet that's going to give you heart disease. We've got no idea what eating protein bars and grenade bars and protein powder and protein porridge and vegan burgers and all of this is going to do to people. And it won't be pretty when the results come out. But like you say, somebody will just try and stuff it under the carpet. They'll do bad epidemiological studies and try and claim that vegan food, even processed vegan food's good for you, by twiddling and fiddling data, like they did with the red meat data, which is all epidemiological studies, which they're all flawed anyway, because it's just asking people to fill in questionnaires. And then now people are frightened of red meat, which is stupid. So like you said, everywhere you look, there's corruption. And sometimes I don't want to look anymore, because
I know. To me, it gets a bit overwhelming at times. And you just, how can we possibly fight all this? But the thing is, it is great. I mean, people are waking up, and I think it is becoming easier to talk about this sort of thing. So because of great people like yourself. But
also you as well. I mean, you can speak for young men in the fitness industry and say, hey man, I was just like you and this is what happened to me. So what you do is really important, because talking about really personal health things to the public is exposing your soul as well. And I'm sure people like we all get trolls and stuff like that, but again, all you're trying to do is save lives. It's like trying to warn people, and this stuff that you
that's exactly
say,
it.
Yeah, I can't, because I'm a woman, and it's like, and young men will listen to, well, I don't know, maybe young men listen to older women, who knows? But the mother figure is very powerful for men, but I think again they just need another man to relate to, and then they're like, oh yeah, that could be me in 10 years if I keep doing this.
Yeah, and it will be, unfortunately. I know we can't save everyone, unfortunately. It's just some people refuse to sort of wake up and refuse to listen. But or, like I keep saying to people, the best we can do is to show them, and a lot of it, like you said, we're pushing the veganism. A lot of it, they try to guilt people into it because of the animal things, and again, that comes down to ignorance. They don't realize how many animals actually die for a crop, or how much it takes out of the planet as well. It really deteriorates the soil, as you were saying before, that our soil is, all the nutrients are basically being taken out of it, which is, animal farming takes a lot less machinery for a start. And, they give us back our topsoil. So it's far better for the planet than anything that agriculture could ever do. And if you have a look at the past, you look at places like Egypt, the vast deserts that used to be forest until they were cleared for crops. And Australia is going through that at the moment, because a lot of our farming is crops, our topsoil is very much depleted because it just gets washed off in rain and things like that. So it's we're losing a lot of topsoil in Australia, and it's getting very difficult to actually grow crops as even though they do fertilize with man-made fertilizers from gas and things like that. It doesn't replace what cattle can do. Yeah.
Oh, exactly. There's loads of problems with adding chemical fertilizers that they they create new problems. The thing is, there's lots of ways. We're too clever for our own good sometimes, and there's ways to grow things that we shouldn't be able to grow in a particular way and make them a particular size. Or I'm talking about vegetables now, and grow them in places where they wouldn't normally grow, using fertilizers and then again genetically modified crops as well. And then people still have this idea that vegetables are healthy, even though, as we know, they've got lots of toxins in them, and seeds and beans are full of deuterium, and it's the plant's baby. It doesn't want you to eat it, yet they're touted as being healthy foods when they're not. And the other thing about veganism is how, you're not meant to eat fruit out of season because it wouldn't grow in December or November. Well, it would actually in Australia and New Zealand, but if you try and eat summer food in winter, you're really messing up your body clocks and your metabolism, because it just it wouldn't be there evolutionarily. So people, even if they want to be vegan, it's just opening themselves up to eating foods that they shouldn't be eating at that particular time of the year, like eating loads of like tropical fruit in the middle of winter in Australia and New Zealand or in the UK. It's just stupid. When would you ever see a pineapple in either of those countries, or a banana? And then eating all that sugar in the winter when there's hardly any sunlight is just foolish. People should be, even if they don't want to do keto all year round, they should do it in winter anyway, because it's like a time of natural scarcity, and we're designed to be in more ketotic in the winter, and we're not designed to be eating lots and lots of carbs in the winter under artificial sort of light.
Yeah. How does seasons and timing affect different populations with their diet?
I think it depends where they live, because somewhere equatorial like Costa Rica or El Salvador, they do have seasons, but different to say winter and summer in the UK. And that's where the tropical fruit does grow. So people are eating seasonal and local produce, but they shouldn't be doing it all year round, because there are times like wet seasons when there wouldn't be tropical fruit. But then, say, using the UK as an example, personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with growing your own food in an allotment, because there is lots of value in controlling exactly what you put on your produce. And then there's lots of value in eating freshly picked produce. Supermarket produce like apples could be like 3 months old. So I do think that there's, for certain people, if they like gardening and they want to grow things, and there's plenty of sunlight, and if we have a good summer, say in the UK, the light and the carbs you eat are going to match. But as soon as it starts to get into winter and it's short days and darkness, there's just not the UV light to be able to make eating carbohydrates appropriate. So I personally would advise people, if in bad weather like in the UK that there is at the moment, it's just, even though we're in spring, it's still cold and it's still like cloudy and dark, so it's still better to and there's nothing growing yet. So it depends what's growing naturally where you live, and then just to eat seasonal and local food. So again, back to like looking after the planet, just buy fruit and vegetables that are local and seasonal. And again, back to the vegans, people who want to ship in exotic fruits and vegetables and avocados and all sorts of things from other countries, the amount of air miles and stuff that's not in line with being kind to the planet, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, shipping, transport, all the machinery they need to transport it. But the produce that they're getting is also months old, frozen, and so it's not going to be, and it all takes equipment as well. So yeah, not very environmentally friendly, and certainly, and certainly not going to be nutrient dense. I mean, the older the fruit or food gets, the less nutrients it's going to have as well. So it's not going to be very healthy for them either.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, if you eat something within 7 hours of picking it, there's a whole different level energetically you can get from that. So you'd need to either grow it yourself or go foraging for mushrooms or something, or pick berries, which we've got plenty of in the UK. There are berries, and each country has its own kind of fruit or vegetable or mushroom or whatever, or nuts you can go out foraging and pick yourself. And that's a fun thing to do with your family. You're outside, you're moving about, exercising. So I'm all for, going and looking for your own food and learning about plants and things. And again, it's like I said, it gets people out, gets people moving. You're grounded when you're outside touching plants, which has lots of benefits. So I think there's lots of value in having your own garden or going foraging or picking produce.
Yeah. So in countries that are low in sunlight, you would prescribe more a high-fat diet would be
you need it's like seafood, like places like Scandinavia, because DHA, the omega-3, it provides electrons, but it can also turn light into electric current and back to light again. And it's a semiconductor, and it's really important for brain development. I remember doing a podcast with Professor Michael Crawford, who's worked and studied DHA in seafood and fish and brains for 50 years. So I think for those kind of places in Scandinavia, but they tend to have really good fish anyway, because bigger fish, I think, tend to grow in colder seas. So I would definitely say sort of plenty of seafood, and then, again, sort of like a keto way of eating, a high-fat approach. Because again, you don't have the sunlight to be able to deplete the deuterium from the carbs, because we can deplete deuterium in sort of high UV and from sweating and other things. So if there's hardly any sunlight, you're going to have trouble depleting the deuterium. Cold thermogenesis can help you deplete deuterium and make your own UV light. So people who live in these colder, darker places should use the cold, but rather than just sitting inside all day. But definitely they should eat, the food that's there. And I would say for those countries, lots of them have very good seafood. And again, like the UK and New Zealand, they're an island, so there's an abundance of seafood to include in the way of eating, along with the sort of ruminant animals as well.
Right. So, okay, there's a couple of things I want to unpack there, but recently I've been reading a bit about Wilhelm Stephenson. He spent a lot of time up in the Arctic, and he found no deficiencies in the river people or the Inuit in their diet. All they ate was high fat, high blubber carnivore diet. Obviously, there's a good mix, and omega-3 is a lot of seafood. Lamb is also high in omega-3s. Would that be as effective as seafood?
Not really, because it's not as high as seafood. But lamb has got the most DHA of say the meats, and it's low in deuterium because it's light. Again, like I said, with meat, the heavier the animal, the more deuterium there could be in sort of collagen. That's why collagen supplements should be avoided. But back to the Inuits, there's DHA in brains, so they you can eat like lamb brain or beef brain or whatever animal brain that they would have eaten, so you can get DHA there. So they probably would have eaten brain, but there are fish and things in those kind of environments, because other animals eat like penguins and polar bears and things like that eat fish, so they would have eaten fish too. But no, I've read the studies as well, and there are lots of indigenous populations who things like the ones in Africa who drink blood and eat all the brains and all sorts of things, and they don't have any deficiencies. So yeah, I agree that there isn't anything that plants have that we can't get from an animal and seafood based diet, other than magnesium, which is, like I said, can be a bit problematic, and manganese sometimes, because it's kind of, and boron, they're kind of more found in plants as well. But you can get boron elsewhere. That's kind of going a bit deep though into minerals.
Yeah. So, all right. So deuterium is the problem when it comes to altering our mitochondria and ways of depleting deuterium. So, like, carbohydrates are very high in deuterium, and heavy meats such as beef would be higher in deuterium as well.
Not really. With deuterium, I suppose I have to unpack it. It's basically an isotope of hydrogen, and it's twice the size. So when it to make ATP or energy in the mitochondria, protons or hydrogen get pumped up or pushed up into a membrane, and they come down the ATPase. It's like got a hole in it, and it's the motor spins and ATP comes out, or energy we'll just call it. And deuterium's twice the size of hydrogen because it's got a neutron as well, and the hydrogen, or well, a proton's just got a proton and an electron, so it's smaller. And if you try and put a deuterium down the ATPase that spins, it's too big, so it breaks it, and then it breaks the mitochondria or damages it, and that sets off inflammation. And it can also kill the mitochondria, which will then damage the cell, and then it's going to affect the organ in which that cell came from. So it leads to all kinds of diseases, and also can lead to cancer as well, because the deuterium can block up something called the tricarboxylic acid cycle, or the Krebs cycle, that comes before mitochondria, and it can block that up and create a mess, and which opens people up to things like diabetes and cancer. But again, a lot of people who get diabetes get cancer as well. But again, what happens, like, to come back to the point, for simplicity, that if you break your mitochondria with deuterium, there are numerous studies that link mitochondrial dysfunction to cancer. So it's not a genetic thing; it's sort of a mitochondrial and deuterium sort of phenomena as well. And then glucose has got about 150 parts per million of deuterium, and then seed oils can have over 200. A healthy range in us, a person, should be about 130 to 140 parts per million, and then fat's really low, with the exception of seed oil, so that's sort of like 110 to 125. And then with meat, it's the grass-fed meat is lower in deuterium, and then like a lamb it's more the collagen, that's where the deuterium collects in the body, because it does have uses. It can stabilize connective tissue, and it's fine if it's in there, but it's not allowed in the mitochondria. So it was more when it comes to meat, grass-fed is lower in deuterium, but overall meat is going to be lower in deuterium than, say, grains or sugar or beans or seeds, stuff like that. So in kind of simple ways, if people just eat fat and protein, or just animal food, animal-based food, that's automatically going to be low in deuterium. And even if people can't afford grass-fed meat, it's going to be higher in deuterium, but it's miles better than eating pasta or rice or something like that.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. So what are some ways that someone can work on depleting deuterium out of the body?
Doing a ketogenic diet, because again, that's, or carnivore, as long, it's not crazily high in protein, because again, but some people on carnivore eat a lot of dairy, which is going to be higher. But on the whole, carnivore and keto diets are going to be low in deuterium because they're high fat, medium protein, and low or zero carb. Then people can avoid excessive supplements, because when you produce chemicals, hydrogen gets used a lot in making chemicals and medication and supplements. So avoiding supplements, because lots of deuterium comes with them, and get your nutrients, your B vitamins, choline, methionine, tryptophan, whatever, from natural sources, not from factories. Then exercise when you sweat, because deuterium's going to be part of water, so sweating will deplete deuterium. cold thermogenesis, as in cold, like doing cold plunges or swimming in a cold lake, that can help deplete deuterium. Then avoiding a sort of processed food, avoiding seed oils, stuff like that. Also, if you've got a bad body clock or you're leptin resistant, and everything's out of timing in your body's not going to deplete deuterium naturally itself. And also you deplete deuterium when you sleep, because you're sort of, it's like a detoxing process. So if your body clocks are out of sync, your body's going to find it harder to get the deuterium out. So first of all, don't eat it and put it in as best you can, and then do your best to constantly kind of move it out of the body. So again, just living a healthy lifestyle, like moving about, exercising, sweating, going outside, getting sunlight will deplete deuterium, because UV light makes you sweat. And there are other aspects of sunlight doing it as well. So again, it's not a detox or anything where anybody makes any money. It's just like a healthy way of living, and it'll help to keep the deuterium down. Avoid things like collagen supplements, protein powders, amino acid supplements, because they're all sort of synthetically made. So again, lots of the stuff in the fitness industry is kind of very heavy in deuterium.
Yeah, that's another thing I keep telling people too, is don't swap medications for supplements, because I mean they all come from pharmaceutical companies. It's all the same. Yeah, it's all artificial vitamins, like you were saying before. Some of the foods they add these vitamins from artificial sources in the wrong dose and the wrong molecule. You see all these cereals, for example, with all these, they say, "Oh, I've got all these different vitamins," but they're all just manufactured vitamins. So it means absolutely nothing to the body.
Oh yeah, cereal is like a deuterium bomb to start with, and then when you add all of the folic acid and the chemical forms of B vitamins and supplementing with vitamin D and all of that, it's just rubbish.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
on multiple levels of rubbish. Like on a biophysics level, it's just horror. It's just like not even food. But even on a basic level, it's just not even proper food. All I have to do is look at cereal to know that it's not real food. But anyway, people seem to like it.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, honestly, if you gave it to animals, they would say you were cruel. But people eat it. It's crazy.
Yeah,
like you said before, we're sort of clever enough to create our own food, but stupid enough to eat it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying. The food scientists are very clever people, and they can make disgusting things taste delicious, like McDonald's chicken McNuggets and McDonald's milkshakes with like all 30 of the ingredients. Yet, people really love the taste and get addicted to them. And the food scientists have been there making these for like billions of sort of pounds or dollars, creating these sort of monstrosities of things that then people seem to think it's normal to eat McDonald's, for breakfast, lunch and dinner.
The combination of sweet and fat, or oils, I should say, the combination of sweet and oils is very highly addictive. Even I find most people actually drink more carbs than they eat. Even the things like you go to Starbucks, for example, and like a venti latte has more sugar than a box of donuts, glazed donuts, and more seed oils. It has like 5 different seed oils in it. So that combination is now, that's probably why they're such a worldwide chain. And
at this point, absolutely, when you've got like the ratios of fats to carbs in a particular, I think it's I did like everything, like crisps, chocolate, milkshakes, hot chocolates, ice cream. It's all this particular ratio of the bliss point. And then when you start adding crunchy things and salted caramel and textures, it makes it even more addictive. And then with the Starbucks drinks, if you get it in a plastic cup, then you've got a hot liquid in their plastic cup,
PFAs and other things
added in on top of your concoction. So I'm not a fan of Starbucks, and and stuff like that. It's again, you know, if people want to drink and eat that, it's up to them, but then don't complain to me that you've got anxiety or depression or a bad gut or you can't sleep or you can't lose weight or you've got pain. You know, it's stop eating and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's right. I find that is actually quite common, even in the carnivore community. They keep coffee. A lot of people keep coffee, and but they don't realize that there's a big difference between like ground coffee at home to Starbucks. Even though I don't drink coffee myself, but you know if you're going to have coffee, like ground coffee at home, is going to be a lot different to what you get at Starbucks as well. So,
oh yeah, absolutely, and you can buy mold-free coffee because definitely they've tested Starbucks coffee and it's often got mold toxin in it, and people don't even feel great after drinking it. And then again, it's more I don't want to give my money to Starbucks or McDonald's, no matter how hungry I was. I know you can buy a McDonald's Big Mac without the bun or anything, just the burger, but I still don't want to give my money to them because I don't want to support it. So
that's my argument as well. I know it's like I've actually said that before many times. Actually, a lot of carnivores will say, "Wait, if you are out on the go, just go to McDonald's and just get the patties, the beef patties." Whether it's whether it really is all meat or not is another argument. But either way, I just would not want to give my money to McDonald's.
Yeah, exactly. And it's one of those things you can just be more organized. But like it's again, like if people want to do that, it's up to them. I'm not gonna, I just wouldn't do it myself. And it's just why do you want to give people? Lots of people who turn carnivore or keto are kind of partially awake, so they should be aware of big pharma and big agro and big food companies. So why are you then giving your money to something that is like behind your argument? Because fair enough, you can buy the patties, but the 90% of McDonald's is just carbs and like crap and sweeteners and sugar and like totally processed. Yeah, it's kind of just carb overload and rubbish overload.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, highly processed sort of garbage that you just, as I said before, it would be cruel to feed to an animal. But there you go. Before, you were talking about grounding as another way of getting rid of deuterium. What is the science behind grounding?
Oh, no, it doesn't get rid of deuterium. It's a way to get more electrons, because it's basically the science behind grounding it's like, I think, the reverse spin magnetic Hall flux effect. So it's basically back to direct current flow that the Earth's coated with a negative charge from electricity striking the Earth all the time. And again, we absorb electrons through our hands and our feet, and then the sun will charge the electrons. That's the photoelectric effect of Einstein's work. So it's just an additional form of energy that's not from a food source. So the more electrons you've got that are charged, the better you'll function, and the more energy you'll have, and the less food electrons you'll want. So, and also there are studies on grounding and expanding the exclusion zone. It also is very good for blood flow, because the red blood cells are negatively charged. The lining of the vessels are negatively charged. There's sulfate around, which is negatively charged. And if you add more electrons in, that's negatively charged as well. So it helps everything stay spaced out in the blood, so it doesn't get in its way. And also it helps because blood is like moved by electrostatic propulsion, because the heart isn't a pump. It's like a suction vortex device, but that's for another time. So the grounding is very beneficial for stopping things clumping together in the blood. Also lowers inflammation, because the more electrons you've got, again, they're antioxidants. They're sort of anti-inflammatory. So the more electrons you have, the less inflammation you'll have, and the better your redox will be, as in the more charge that you'll have. So there's lots of benefits to grounding. There are studies. Dr. Conover published one in 2003. That's the most recent one I've read. And before we, started putting plastic on the soles of our shoes, people used to wear leather-soled shoes anyway, and that conducts. So again, it's just another way we've disconnected ourselves from nature, but by insulating ourselves. So yeah.
So the best shoes to wear would be leather soled.
Yeah, that's what I wear. I wear a leather soled shoe with a copper rivet in it. You can buy grounding shoes and, for all different prices, but I just like sort of natural, then, that's what I use. And I often just walk around barefoot if I can as well, like on grass, or walking barefoot on a beach is a really good way to ground. You can, swimming outdoors in the sea or a lake is an excellent way to ground as well.
Yeah, I find that's a great way to do it myself. I often, I'm walking distance to the beach, so I like to go down to the beach and just barefoot on the sand, wet sand, and walk through the water as often as I can. I find it's just, you can feel the stimulation. Actually, it's a great thing. I think it's great for positive. It just makes you feel more positive about the day to get outside and spend it on the water as well, if you can.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, I think just spending time outside anyway, because even if it's not sunny, the near infrared light, the red light, can still get through the clouds, and our mitochondria and our hemoglobin really need the red light, and it's there 24/7, 365. So whoever created the universe made sure that our mitochondria, no matter what, could always get red light if we actually went outside. And also the red water absorbs in the red, so that's kind of, again, expands our exclusion zone. So there's like numerous benefits. And also when you're out in nature and outside, you're not in front of tech or looking at cat videos on TikTok. Sure, they're funny, but like some people are going to get stuck in the vortex of funny reels, and then 3 hours later they surface. So there's lots of benefits to like the beach as well.
Yeah, so I mean, you can see that all the time when people, they can't get their nose out of their mobile phones these days. They're addicted to it, and I think we were talking about before the blue light and addiction. I think there's people are addicted to their mobile phones, and and addicted to whatever's going on social media and or whatever's on the screen. So what would be, let's finish with, I've taken up a fair bit of your time already, so thank you very much for that. But what would be life hacks for you, something that people should follow, like something you do daily to improve health?
See the sunrise, prioritize going outside, distill your water and remineralize it, or use reverse osmosis. So that's kind of basic. And always get your bare feet on the earth, because it's not just for electrons, it's also for like geomagnetism. So that just covers sort of light, water, and magnetism. So we've got light, seeing the sunrise, and prioritizing going outside and opening windows too. Make sure you drink clean water, distill it or reverse osmosis. And then finally, just reconnect with nature with your hands, and your bare hands, and your feet. And don't eat things made in factories. Eat proper food.
Yeah, proper food, like 1 or 2 ingredients is all you need. Yeah,
exactly. And remember, we're an animal, not a vegetable. So and we need animal building blocks to build ourselves.
Exactly. Yeah. Just one last thing, clean water. That is something that is a little more difficult for people to get their hands on. What do you suggest with, say, suburban tap water? How would you treat that?
I'd buy a tabletop distiller, because they're about $150 or less. That's US, and I can't remember the conversion rate to an Australian dollar, maybe $200. So it's very affordable for everybody. And then remineralizing is easy, because minerals are really cheap, because they're not sexy supplements. And just start there, because I think the number of things that are in tap water, I mean, fluoride's a terrible energy stealer. We've got everybody's pharmaceuticals and HRT in there. All sorts of other metals and goodness knows what else. And I just think just super basic, even before you know, like, but obviously clean food is vital, but so is clean water. It's like a fundamental, and it's not expensive to buy a distiller. It's very cheap. It's affordable for pretty much everybody, really, and it's just like, because filters don't get half the stuff out, or fluoride, so distilling or reverse osmosis is more expensive, but distilling I think is actually a better technique, and it's very accessible and easy.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just easier, and then remineralize with salt, and I'd use potassium as well, just because it's like harder to get mineral than sodium, and it's cheap, it's easy, and a lot of people are potassium deficient. So yeah, that's very super basic for people. You know, you buy something like Barja Gold or Redmond's or Quinton can be a bit too expensive for the regular person, but if somebody wants that, I think that's great mineral. Or Celtic grey salt's really good, and then add some potassium, and then, you know, there are other, obviously, of course, other minerals. I don't want to kind of overload people with information. Sometimes it's just, for some people, they've never thought of distilling water, and they're like, oh, it's not even that expensive, I can easily do that.
So when it comes to potassium, what do you think about bacon or like pork belly?
Oh, I don't eat bacon. I avoid sausage and bacon and stuff like that. Personally, it's not my thing. When I've worked with clients, and, you know, if there's something about bacon and sausage that whatever people do to it, it doesn't get on very well with people.
Oh, fair enough. Okay. Excellent. Thank you very much for taking the time, and I really appreciate that. It seems the more I listen to you, the more questions I have. So it just keeps going. So I'd love to do this again sometime. And but yeah, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me, and I'm really I'm glad that, you know, you're out there evangelizing, and you know, and you're well and better, and it must have been a shock of what happened, and thanks for sharing, you know, all of your stuff with everybody, and, you know,
Well, thank you. Yeah,
waking people up.